Hello and welcome to EESC 418A. This is Lecture 7C, Proposals. Proposals are extremely important because they help us get the grants or the budget or whatever else we need to start a project. So we need to do them really well, and we need to convince our audience that we know what we're doing and that we're the right person for whatever job it is we're applying for. Now, I have to admit, I used to really hate doing proposals. I used to find them very challenging and very frustrating because nobody wins every proposal, so you will end up spending a lot of time doing proposals if you're an academic or a consultant. Nobody wins every proposal, so there is going to be some wasted time, but you have to view each proposal as an opportunity to get better. And you will get better with time, and it does get less frustrating once you realize that a good proposal can actually help you do some planning, sharpen your mind, and make you better as you go. So hopefully these tips today will help you get started and make your proposal writing a little bit more enjoyable and less frustrating. So let's get started. So proposals are required to gain funding for academic and commercial studies. As a consultant, you will write a lot of proposals to clients, and as an academic, you'll write a lot of proposals to grant societies and funding agencies. And the proposals are pretty similar. There isn't a huge difference between them. I will go over some of the differences. In either case, though, a proposal is an opportunity for you to brainstorm and develop a plan. For the funding agency or the client, it's an opportunity to select the best candidate and to see who's put a lot of thought into this. So a proposal can be open-ended. In other words, somebody's asked for something and you have complete latitude about how to write up your plan and to describe how you will get it done. A lot of proposals, though, have a specific request for a proposal where they lay out all of the requirements, including the format and the outline for which you will prepare and submit your proposal. A lot of RFPs will also include grading criteria, so it makes it very clear how your proposal will be judged. In Lecture 7A, I had given some example outlines. This is the same outline for proposals, but with a little bit more detail. So the first section will be the introduction or the rationale. Sometimes these are separate sections, but they're basically the same thing. You need to describe why this work is going to be important. Who will benefit from it? If you are a consultant writing to a client, you're surely going to be writing about how your client can benefit. If you're writing to a grant agency or the federal government or some other institution, generally you'll be writing about how you will benefit society or science in general or some other fairly large stakeholder group. What problem will be solved? First, you must lay out a problem definition and then describe how you will solve it. At this point, we're not getting into specifics. That's for the next section. In the work plan section, you'll describe all of the tasks and how you will complete your project. It's good to have milestones. What are the major phases or tasks? And do you anticipate any challenges, and if so, how will you solve them? The next section is deliverables. What will be produced? Almost always this will include a document, but it may also include some other things as well that you'll deliver to the client or to the general scientific community. So this can be models, data, figures, presentations. Budget. How much will it cost? If you're writing an academic proposal, often you'll need to describe the hours and any funding that you'll need for laboratory analyses, materials, supplies, other costs. And the schedule. How long will it take? Again, we had a work plan earlier where we described tasks. Now it's time to describe how long each one will take. What are the assumptions? What do we need from the agency or from some other party in order for this project to be successful? And then expertise. Who will direct, manage, and execute the project? And note that these are three very distinct tasks. So directing is providing high-level guidance, review, support, but usually not a lot of hands-on intervention. Management is keeping everything on track and making sure that the project is meeting its goals and deliverables. But executing the project is generally going to be where most of the scientific work happens. And this can be a large team of people or an individual. There are a few differences between an academic versus a commercial proposal. As I mentioned, they're fairly similar in terms of the content I showed on the previous slide. But here are some really key differences to keep track of. So first, the audience. If you're writing a proposal, a grant proposal to an academic screening committee, this will go to a committee that is formed to screen proposals on behalf of some agency. They may or may not be full-time employees. They're often people who are brought in because they have specific expertise and they can screen out the best candidate for a given project. For a commercial proposal, you'll be writing directly to the person or the group of people at the client who are directly responsible for the funds. And then the decision. So the decision may be a winner-take-all if it's a commercial proposal. So in other words, the client will hire one company to work for them. Or in an academic proposal, for example, NSERC, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of grants given out every year from a large pool. So it's not so much that one company needs to take everything, it's that you need to stand out in your field amongst others who will also win the proposal. But then again, some will be rejected. So the criteria for an academic proposal is typically going to be, will your project benefit the scientific community or society? As opposed to the commercial proposal, where the criteria will be mainly cost, and sometimes ahead of cost will be the benefit to the client. But typically those are the two main criteria. How much will it cost and how will it benefit the client? In an academic proposal, there's little accountability for actually meeting the deliverables that you lay out in your proposal. For example, if you get an NSERC grant, you will be granted for 2 years. Your supervisor will try and make sure that you're working diligently to meet those goals. But at the end of the day, if you don't, you won't get sued, which is different from a commercial proposal, which then becomes part of a contract. And if you decide to not complete it, you will get sued. So you have a high level of accountability to meet every term that you've laid out in your proposal. And then schedule. In an academic proposal, schedule is not a huge driver. You do need to show how you can do things on time, particularly if you're doing a master's degree or an honors thesis or a PhD. You need to show how you can complete your project within that time allotted to complete that degree. In a commercial proposal, time can be a major driver. Clients often want something done within a very short time frame, usually too short for the actual amount of work that needs to be done, and you need to figure out a way to either get it done or to convince your client to extend the deadline, which can be challenging, but it can be done. Expertise. In an academic proposal, expertise is really important in a highly collaborative grant, which may include multiple groups working together. There needs to be a high level of expertise at the top. However, many grants are intended to help build expertise. So for example, NSERC grants. These are granted to master's and PhD students to help them gain expertise. So it's not expected that you will just be finishing a bachelor's degree, applying for a grant to do a master's degree, and that you'll be an outstanding expert in your field. These grants are specifically intended to help you build that expertise. In a commercial proposal, professional reputation of a senior team can be a major criterion. A lot of winning proposals can be selected because of the chosen team. And then the format. Academic grant proposals are often fairly prescriptive. The granting agency will lay out a bit of a template, and that helps them evaluate the winner amongst many other contenders. Commercial requests for proposals, also known as RFPs, can be open-ended or they can have a suggested format. And it really depends on the client and how they intend to evaluate you. This slide lays out a little bit of the process for selecting a winning grant. So on the left, it shows an academic grant. There is a highly prescribed format and a highly prescribed process. They have large committees who come together and follow this process. And as you can see at the bottom of this slide, there are a number of different links, each of which goes to fairly detailed pages laying out the whole process. So it's a very highly scripted process. And it's really important that if you're applying for a grant and you're writing a proposal, that you fully understand the entire process. Because it would be a real shame to have your proposal rejected because you've missed one little step. In a commercial proposal, the decision can be made by a single person or a small group of people. And the criteria can be highly objective, laid out in a rubric, just like a grant proposal, or it can be totally subjective. It can be just one person reading a few proposals and picking the one they like. Totally depends on the company and the project. In some cases, a commercial RFP may be sent out to multiple bidders, really as just a price check. In other words, the client has already selected an almost certain winner, but they want to make sure that they have a good price, and so they'll send it out to multiple bidders just to make sure that the contender who is likely to win hasn't jacked up the price knowing that they're probably going to win. And keep in mind that in both academic and commercial proposals, there's about a 10 to 30% win rate depending on the grant and the client and a number of other factors. But anytime you're writing a proposal, you've probably got somewhere between a 10% and a 30 or 40% chance of winning. So usually your best chance is around 1 in 3, unless you've been specifically told that it's a sole source proposal, in which case you really just have to lay out a good work plan and make a decent price and you'll win. So this means you're going to spend a lot of time writing proposals, whether you're an academic or a consultant. So it's worth the time to try and get really good at it, because it will also make you a much more successful career academic or consultant. So here are some tips. So be courteous. No matter who you're writing to, always have a courteous tone. Thank the reader for reading your proposal and for taking the time to evaluate it. Be interesting. You want to capture their attention right off the bat. Be enthusiastic. The amount of desire you have to win the project and the excitement that you can show in your work plan really comes through in a proposal. And people who read proposals can understand the difference between somebody who's just trying to make some money or just trying to get a job done versus somebody who's really excited and passionate about the project. And being passionate is really something that will make an evaluator want to hire you. So be meticulous. If you have an RFP or an application process, follow that process meticulously and make sure your proposal follows every step as closely as possible. Next, be prepared. No matter who you're writing a proposal to or what type of proposal it is, it's worth taking a little bit of time to do a quick literature review, to do a little background reading, and to show the evaluator that you really know what you're talking about. Next, be concise. You want your proposal to be as short as possible without leaving any information out. Just as an aside, I've written many proposals over the years. The one comment that I've gotten a few times, which was highly encouraging, was, "I love how short your proposal was." In consulting, we sometimes write these 50 to 100 page proposals. These would be something for an environmental impact assessment where there's a lot to talk about. And we send these proposals out thinking we've done a great job because we've included a ton of information. But always remember that somebody has to sift through these, and they're not just reading your proposal, they're going to be reading a number of proposals, and they're going to be pretty burnt out if they have to read thousands of pages. Keep it as short as you can. Be concrete and specific. Being vague or abstract in a proposal is a real killer. It really shows that you haven't thought it through. Anytime that you have any details that you can show, specifically examples of projects that you've successfully completed or specific steps you will take to complete the project on time and on budget and at a high quality, and novel ideas you have, be concrete and specific. Next, be realistic and honest. So being realistic really means being honest with yourself. How much time will this actually take you? Can you get this done? And then be honest in your proposal to the reader. Don't overpromise, because you could be held to something that you will later regret saying. Next, be a scientist and not a marketer. Even though proposals are somewhat a marketing tool, you need to show how you're going to be a scientist in the project, and you need to write like a scientist, not like a clever marketer. So don't try and be too clever with your wording. Just be factual, show them your passion, and show them your enthusiasm, and that will come through with the details of your work plan. Be persuasive. Remember all of the tips. Go back and look at the previous lectures if you don't remember what it means to be persuasive. But it's really important that your proposal is a persuasive document. You need to persuade your funder or your client or whoever that you are the best person for the choice. Okay, so follow these tips. There are some good readings on this topic in the links. I've only linked to a couple because I think they cover the topic really well. And pay attention to these because these will be directly related to the first assignment. And this concludes Lecture 7, so have a great week and we'll see you next week.